Welcome back to Gleeman's Lullaby, the deep dive specifically tailored to you, the learner, as we track the true genesis of the chaos-gripping Westeros.
Today, we're opening the source text of A Game of Thrones. We're picking up the story in Chapter 9, which is Tyrion's first really pivotal appearance, and we're running all the way through Chapter 16.
The title for today's deep dive is Episode 2, The Kingsroad. And our mission is, well, it's pretty simple. We're going to stop summarizing and really start dissecting that pivotal moment the game truly began.
Yeah, I mean, this period is just this lethal journey south. You've got political tensions, personal tragedies, and these huge revelations about, incest and murder. It just turns what should be a royal procession into a fatal collision course for the whole kingdom.
And it's so important to remember where we left off. You have the royal party traveling south from Winterfell, moving further and further away from the safety of the north.
Right. And at the same time, you have Jon Snow starting his journey to the Wall with his uncle Benjen. What we're seeing now is just the immediate escalation of that core Stark-Lannister conflict.
Yep. And it's exemplified perfectly through the daughters, isn't it? Sansa, who's dreaming of marrying a prince and living this nice and pretty life from the songs.
And Arya, who is just the complete opposite. She embodies that conflict between duty and dream. She rejects that whole courtly life entirely. And that clash really is the first casualty of the war.
That structural setup, moving the Starks out of their safe context and into the Viper's Nest, it immediately manifests as this profound dread. So let's unpack Ned Stark's personal journey first, because he is carrying the weight of the past south with him.
The source material goes to great lengths to establish how reluctant Eddard Stark is to leave Winterfell. His loyalty is just so fixed on the north, and it's all symbolized by the crypts.
Right. He spends his final moments there among his ancestors, these kings in the north, and most painfully at Lyanna's tomb.
And that memory of Lyanna is so visceral. You get the phantom scent of blood and roses. You get the whisper of that terrible promise she made him swear to.
Promise me, Ned. That line, whatever it was, is just. It's his defining burden. It seems to dictate every single loyal, and let's be honest, often naive decision he makes once he gets to the southern court.
Exactly. He is tethered to the past, while everyone else is playing a very different, very modern game.
And the man he's doing all this for, King Robert, is this just heartbreaking contrast to the hero he remembers from his youth.
Oh, completely. The King Robert, a legend, the fabled warrior who won a throne, he's just gone. What we're given instead is a man described as red-faced under his beard, sweating through his silks.
Yeah, walking with that heavy gait of someone who's perpetually half in his cups. His breathing is labored and loud. It's the decay of the monarchy in human form.
And he's only preoccupied with, immediate physical comfort. The sources say he finds joy only in talking about these easy summer pleasures. Fields of golden roses, cheap summer wines, scantily clad women.
The warrior king has been replaced by a hedonist, completely failing in his duty, which makes his demand of Ned so deeply ironic.
Precisely. Robert is desperate because he's intellectually bankrupt. He demands Ned accept the handship because he is, and this is a direct quote, surrounded by flatterers and fools.
He genuinely believes Ned's rigorous, unwavering honor is the only ethical anchor left in King's Landing.
But what he fails to see, and what Ned fails to internalize, is that in that city, honor is not an anchor. It's a drowning weight.
And that desperation, that need, it brings us to the first major catalyst for the entire series, Catelyn's revelation. It just arrives like a thunderclap.
And Catelyn is the pragmatist in this moment. She gets this hidden message, sealed with the moon and Salkin, Lisa Aaron's sigil. The source describes her immediate terror. She whispers, "I'm afraid."
This isn't just, worrying about family. This is a primal fear. She knows the stakes.
But Ned's immediate reaction, and this is so true to his character, is to just dismiss the accusation. Lisa insists Jon Arryn was murdered by the Lannisters, the queen.
And Ned just calls it grief. He thinks his sister-in-law is just sick with sorrow.
But Catelyn sees the truth that Ned can't afford to see. She recognizes that this warning was carefully planned, cleverly hidden, knowing it meant death if it was intercepted. She understands what it means to accuse the queen of killing the hand of the king.
And that forces Ned's hand. He finally agrees to go south, but the price is the immediate structural breakdown of House Stark.
Yeah, he forces Catelyn to stay behind to govern the North and train Robb to rule. And he says that famous foundational Stark mantra, there must always be a Stark in Winterfell.
But let's just pause on that phrase for a second because we hear it a few times in these early chapters. Isn't there this profound irony in both Ned and Catelyn clinging to that ideal of stability, even as they are both actively abandoning Winterfell to go play this southern political game?
The irony is brutal, and it really underscores the necessity of what they're doing, or at least how necessary they think it is. Ned even remembers his own father, Lord Rickard, who went south once to answer the summons of a king. He never came home again.
So he knows he's walking into a trap.
He's willingly walking into a trap, but he uses that mantra to enforce stability on his children. But when Catelyn uses it, as she's secretly preparing to leave Robb behind, it just highlights the frantic, desperate nature of their choices. They're sacrificing the spirit of the rule to uphold the letter of their duty.
So the world is fracturing, the Starks are dividing, and then suddenly the story just shifts thousands of miles away across the Narrow Sea, and we're thrust into the world of Daenerys Targaryen and the Dothraki.
And it is a massive tonal shift. We go from the sort of feudal dread of the north to these scenes of truly barbaric splendor outside the walls of Pentos. The sources depict this completely alien culture, palaces of woven grass, these vast open spaces, and just the sheer power of 40,000 Dothraki warriors.
The text really focuses on Daenerys' sheer isolation. I mean, she's 13 years old, surrounded by warriors, and she has this moment of sudden start of fear when she realizes she is the only woman there.
Completely vulnerable, utterly alone in this sea of testosterone and alien custom.
And yet, it's through her wedding gifts that her future power is symbolized.
It is. You have Ser Jorah Mormont, the exiled Westerosi knight, who gives her something practical and intellectual, a stack of old books in the common tongue. It signifies knowledge, a connection back to her homeland.
But then you have the really magnificent, almost magical gift from Magister Illyrio, 3 enormous dragon eggs.
And the description is so crucial here. They are turned to stone, ancient, but they shimmer with color. Deep green and bronze, pale cream and gold, and black shot through with scarlet. They're heavy, cold, and covered in these tiny, intricate scales.
This is the overt reintroduction of magic and deep history into the modern story of Westeros, isn't it?
Absolutely. These eggs are relics of the Targaryens' vanished power. They're tangible symbols of a claim to divinity and absolute rule. They're beautiful, they're inert, but they hold all the potential of the past.
Meanwhile, her brother Viserys, the bigger king, completely misses the significance of all of it. He is so lost in his own narcissism.
He's just insisting that Westeros is our land. Ours by blood right, taken from us by treachery, but ours still, ours forever. He still only sees Daenerys as currency, a commodity to buy an army.
And his vow just captures his delusion perfectly. You do not steal from the dragon. Oh no, the dragon remembers.
And he thinks he is the dragon,
Yeah.
the rightful heir. But you, the audience, seeing Daenerys' terror and her quiet strength, you realize the dragon might remember a little differently than he intends.
Okay, let's jump back to the main action. The tension that was created by Ned's dread and the secret of Jon Arryn's death, it explodes on the Kingsroad, way earlier than anyone could have anticipated.
And it happens in the most teenage, petty way possible, right near the Trident River.
Which is symbolic in itself, right?
Yeah.
The Trident is where Robert won his crown.
Exactly. And the conflict is fundamentally between the two Stark daughters. Sansa is absolutely committed to her fairy tale. She's determined that things must remain nice and pretty the way they were in the songs.
And then there's Arya, who sees the reality of the situation, that Prince Joffrey is a spoiled, sadistic little brute.
The whole incident starts when Joffrey decides to abuse his power. He's harassing Micah, the butcher's boy, playing this mock warrior against someone who's completely defenseless.
It's not just a scuffle, though. It's an early display of who Joffrey really is. He uses his sharp sword, Lion's Tooth, to threaten and draw blood.
And that's when Arya's direwolf, Nymeria, intervenes, sinking her teeth right into Joffrey's arm.
Yeah.
And then Arya, in this act of pure defiance, takes Joffrey's named sword and just drives it into the Trident River.
Washing the Lannisters' tooth away. I mean, the dramatic irony is just perfect, but it forces this audience chamber confrontation that just demonstrates the total bankruptcy of Robert's court.
It really does. Robert demands the truth. Arya gives her account, detailing the prince's cruelty. And the situation is so ridiculous that the adults there, specifically Renly Baratheon, just burst out laughing.
They have to escort him out. It's a moment of truth so absurd that the court just cannot process it.
And Joffrey, of course, presents a very different version, claiming the wolf attacked him completely unprovoked.
And the king's frustration is huge. He knows the truth. The source explicitly tells us that Robert is lying when he pretends to deliberate. Internally, he's thinking, My son was lying, I'd stake my soul on it.
But duty and politics, they trump truth and fatherhood. To defuse the whole situation, Robert sides with Cersei, who is demanding justice for the attack on her son.
And since Nymeria had fled into the wilderness,
Sansa's gentle, quiet direwolf lady is executed in her stead. It's the first truly innocent casualty of the war, sacrificed purely for political convenience.
Okay, and here's where I have to push back on Ned Stark a little bit. The sources say he carries out the execution of Lady himself with his greatsword Ice to prevent a Lannister man from doing it. We're told this is out of duty, but wasn't this politically and personally a catastrophic failure? He sacrificed his daughter's trust and killed a beautiful animal for absolutely nothing. Why not just defy the king?
That is the core tragedy of Ned Stark's honor. He is not willing to risk the stability of the entire royal succession over a dog. He sees himself as the hand, and the hand must maintain order.
So it's a political calculation?
It is. By carrying out the sentence himself, he avoids giving Cersei and the Lannisters more leverage, and he spares the wolf a much crueler, possibly drawn-out death at the hands of Sir Lyn Payne. It's an act of mercy within a political disaster. For Ned, duty means the execution must be clean, quick, and done by his own hand.
He's trying to remain ethically clean in a corrupt system.
He is, but it doesn't work. And what about Sansa? The sources note she's easily consoled by Joffrey's immediate attention after the execution. She's only a child, but it just highlights how vulnerable she is to the manipulations of the court and how desperately she wants her fairy tale to be real.
This brings us to a really critical analysis of the direwolves themselves. They appeared after centuries, which Jory explicitly calls a sign.
Yeah, and Ned tries to dismiss it as only a dead animal. But even Ned, the pragmatist, is troubled by the timing of their discovery. This execution of Lady is the ultimate confirmation that these wolves are not just pets, they are spiritual extensions of the Stark children, and their fates foreshadow the owner's paths.
It's remarkable how immediately predictive their fates are. Lady, the quiet, delicate, gentle wolf, the perfect lady, is sacrificed purely because of a political lie.
Which perfectly foreshadows Sansa's vulnerability. She's constantly a political pawn, manipulated and vulnerable to the deceptions of courtly life. She loses her safety, her dignity, her identity, all because of the lies surrounding her.
And then conversely, you have Nymeria, Arya's wolf, who fled into the wilderness after biting Joffrey.
Right, and that path reflects Arya's immediate refusal to conform to that narrow box of ladylike expectations. Her survival is in her wildness, her ability to escape and adapt.
And her symbol of defiance is her small sword, Needle, a gift from Jon. Ned remembers the memory of her laughter over that sword warmed him on the long ride north, which confirms that her unconventional path is her strength.
And we can't forget Summer, Bran's wolf, who becomes his crucial protector. He saves him from the assassin, reflecting Bran's need to survive and his ultimate strange journey. The symbolism is locked in stone almost immediately.
Before we move on to Jon Snow, we have to address Catelyn's inner life, which the source material really lays bare during this time. Her hatred of Jon Snow is this festering wound that makes her love for Ned feel conditional.
It really is. And she carries this pain south with her, and it blinds her to nuance when she finally confronts Tyrion.
Her inner dialogue is quite painful to read. She admits she might have tolerated a dozen other bastards so long as they were out of sight.
But Jon was always present, always protected by Ned. And the ultimate sting of fate for her is that as Jon grew, he looked more like Ned than any of the true-born sons she bore him. Somehow that made it worse.
And that resentment is just a key piece of the emotional foundation that drives her catastrophic political misstep later on.
It really demonstrates that even the most grounded characters are vulnerable to these deep-seated emotional wounds. Catelyn is normally so rational, but her fear for Ned, combined with this ancient prejudice against Jon, it creates a perfect storm of rage and poor judgment when she's presented with the supposed evidence of the dagger.
So, while the royal party is heading south into the Viper's Nest, Jon Snow is heading north, trying to escape his shame. His journey is really driven by this search for honor, a virtue he feels he can only achieve by swearing the oath of the Night's Watch.
He's very clear in his motivation. A bastard can have honor too, but he's still a boy of 14, full of romantic ideals.
And his uncle, Benjen Stark, the pragmatist of the Watch, warns him about the profound cost of that oath. It's not just a duty, it's a profound sacrifice.
We have no families. None of us will ever father sons. Our wife is duty, our mistress is honor. Benjen recognizes that Jon's idealism is just masking his ignorance of the true sacrifice required.
It's during this journey that he has an encounter that really defines his intellectual path forward. meeting Tyrion Lannister.
And Tyrion immediately cuts through any polite facade, greeting him so bluntly. You're Ned Stark's bastard, aren't you?
Tyrion disarms Jon, not with politeness, but with this radical honesty, claiming the right of the dwarf whose ancestors were capering fools in motley to speak freely. He instantly recognizes a fellow outsider.
Right, someone who's defined by a status they simply cannot change.
And this is where Tyrion lays out his entire life philosophy. It's the framework for his survival in a world that scorns him. He frames his dwarfism as this constant, brutal challenge that he has to overcome with his intellect.
And he articulates the defining principle of his life. His mind is his weapon. He says, my brother has his sword, King Robert has his warhammer, and I have my mind. And a mind needs books as a sword needs a whetstone if it is to keep its edge.
That is just an incredibly insightful moment for you, the learner. It's the ultimate advice for surviving in a world of political conflict. He's telling Jon to arm himself with knowledge because that is the only level playing field.
And then Tyrion demonstrates that sharp mind by shrewdly guessing the true hidden source of Jon's misery.
He tells him, I know your secret. You've dreamt the same kind of dreams. Dreams of power, ambition, and revenge against those who scorn him.
And Jon's denial is furious, but it confirms the truth. Tyrion sees right through the honorable facade to the raw resentment underneath. That meeting is a masterclass in psychological insight, and is probably the greatest gift Jon receives before he gets to Castle Black.
Which is good, because his idealism is immediately shattered once he arrives at the Wall. The reality of the Night's Watch is brutally exposed.
Castle Black is no Winterfell, no true castle at all. It's cold, drafty, half-ruined, and even worse than the physical cold, the people are colder.
And the training yard is an immediate awakening to class and social status.
Oh yeah. Sir Alistair Thorne, the Master-at-Arms, constantly mocks Jon as Lord Snow, sneering at his privileged background, while disparaging the other recruits as Stiggleboys and sneak thieves and rapers.
And Jon, who was trained by Sir Roderick Castle, easily defeats them all, and he thinks this validates his skill and his honor.
But Donal Noy, the armorer, gives him the painful truth that Tyrion was hinting at. Noy points out Jon's massive, lifelong advantage. The other recruits are farmers and wagon men and poachers. Not 1 in 20 has ever been rich enough to own a real sword.
He's not fighting his peers, he's fighting men who were desperately poor, driven to the wall by hunger or petty crimes.
And Noye challenges him directly. He asks, so how do you like the taste of your victories now, Lord Snow? And this forces Jon to see his privilege, not his honor, as the source of his dominance.
And that realization is what begins his true leadership journey. He starts training the recruits instead of humiliating them, and it prepares him for the very difficult path ahead.
So while Jon is learning humility, the stakes back in Winterfell escalate the political game to a completely irreversible degree. Bran is still in a coma, suspended between life and death.
And Catelyn, half mad with grief, is maintaining this relentless vigil at his bedside. She's neglecting her own health.
And her grief and exhaustion create the perfect opportunity for the assassin. The source describes the man slipping in and attacking Catelyn, and he mutters, chillingly, that she wasn't supposed to be there.
So the fire he set in the library tower, which Catelyn just assumed was a random accident, was actually a meticulously planned distraction.
Exactly. It was intended to draw her and the guards away.
But Providence, in the form of a direwolf, intervenes. Summer leaps, takes out half his throat, spraying Catelyn with warm blood.
She survives, but the crucial defining clue is the weapon. Sir Roderick asks Catelyn if she noticed it, an unusual blade.
And Catelyn's deductive logic, once she shakes off the horror, is fantastic. She confirms the fire was a distraction. She realizes this attack wasn't random. Someone tried to execute her son, and they tried again.
So she trusts Robb to rule in her absence, reinforcing that mantra. There must always be a Stark in Winterfell. But she knows she has to act immediately and personally.
She takes this enormous risk, traveling south, secretly, disguised, with only a small escort to deliver Lysa's warning to Ned. She's determined to avoid detection.
And that secrecy is completely undone at the Crossroads Inn, where she meets the singer Marillion, and fatally, Tyrion Lannister.
Tyrion, who claims he's just visiting the Wall, recognizes her immediately.
And Catelyn is compromised. In her grief and panic, she makes a fatal error. She reveals herself and invokes the feudal oaths of the assembled river lords and sellswords, including Bronn and Chigantu-Sea's Tyrion.
The source notes that Tyrion is initially not displeased. He expects the capture to be governed by the laws of honor and hospitality.
And he is instantly disabused of that notion. His journey to the Eyrie is an ordeal. He's blindfolded, tied, and dragged across this brutal terrain. And Catelyn reveals the core charge, the one that justifies her rage and his capture. The assassin was armed with your dagger.
This is the moment where the analysis has to stop. Tyrion's defense is pure logical truth, and it's fueled by outrage at Catelyn's prejudice.
He insists it was not his dagger. He asks rhetorically. Only a fool would arm a common footpad with his own blade. So we have to ask, why did Catelyn ignore this perfect rational defense?
She's just driven by rage and Lysa's letter, and because of those deep-seated emotional wounds, she has already convicted him based on the evidence of the dagger's strange, rich materials.
And the moment he arrives at the Eyrie, the psychological horror begins. He is thrown into the sky cell, a tiny space open to a dizzying 600-foot drop where the prisoners are welcome to escape at will.
The sheer terror of the cold, the wind, and the knowledge of that drop is the real torture. The jailer, Mord, promises him, then you fly.
Lysa Arryn, equally blinded by grief and paranoia, is just determined to see him pay for the murders of Jon Arryn and Bran. But Tyrion, he uses his sharp mind to begin manipulating the situation immediately.
He secures Mord's loyalty and assistance, promising him more gold than you'll see here in a lifetime, if he delivers a critical message to his brother.
And he executes the ultimate gambit, demanding a trial by combat. When the noble knights refuse to fight for the despised imp, Tyrion uses his transactional cunning once more. He secures Bronn, the Self-Lord, by offering gold and the promise of freedom.
The fight between Bronn and Ser Vardis Egan is highly symbolic, isn't it?
It really is. Egan is weighed down by this heavy, beautiful, high-status armor, representing the rigid, honorable, but ultimately slower knightly tradition.
And Bronn, by contrast, is light, quick, and ruthless. He uses speed and guile against honor and weight, and he achieves a brutal victory that secures Tyrion's freedom.
And in doing so, he directly escalates the entire conflict by sending the Kingslayer's brother free, which justifies the military retaliation from the Lannisters.
All right, let's move to King's Landing, where Ned Stark has now arrived and the game is already in full swing. He immediately encounters the two things that destroy his honor-based governance: profound corruption and staggering financial ruin.
Littlefinger immediately exposes the political reality. Ned is stunned to learn the crown is hemorrhaging money. The debt is astronomical. 3 million dragons, owed primarily to the Lannisters. This isn't just a budgeting problem, it's a political crisis.
We really need to put that debt into perspective for you, the learner. 3 million dragons is an insane sum. It means the Iron Throne is no longer financially solvent. It is essentially mortgaged to House Lannister.
The Lannisters don't just hold political influence through Cersei, they hold economic control over the entire realm. This realization should have been Ned's first warning sign that Robert was already a puppet.
And despite the chaos, Ned tries to govern honorably. When Robert goes hunting the White Hart, Ned sits the Iron Throne, upholding what the Starks value above all: the King's justice.
For our listener, we should probably clarify that concept. In Westeros, the King's justice is the tradition that capital crimes are judged and executed personally by the king or his hand, without relying on lesser officials. It's the ultimate display of royal power and personal responsibility.
And Ned upholds this by denouncing Gregor Clegane the Mountain for heinous war crimes, burning villages, raping and killing people in the Riverlands. He strips Clegane of all rank and titles and sentences him to death.
And that action, sending Lord Beric Dondarrion to execute a principal bannerman of House Lannister, is a direct, public, and aggressive provocation to Tywin Lannister. Ned acts decisively and justly, but in King's Landing, justice is synonymous with war.
The ultimate tragedy, though, is Robert's sudden, avoidable death. He returns injured by a boar, confessing that he was reeling in his saddle when he found the animal.
And in his final moments of clarity, he commands the assassination of Daenerys, but then retracts it, muttering, "She is only a child. It was wrong. It was wrong."
And Ned, seeing his friend die, is just unable to morally compromise. He refuses to affix his seal to the command, declaring unequivocally, "I will not be part of murder, Robert." He dramatically throws down the hands badge.
This act of moral purity gives him the standing to confront Cersei, but it completely seals his doom.
He tells Cersei he knows the truth, that Joffrey, Tommen, and Myrcella are not Robert's children, the result of incest between her and Jaime. But here is the critical failure point. Ned, in his honor, urges her to flee King's Landing with her children before Robert can return and order their deaths.
His mercy is his most fatal flaw. He gives her the time to plan her survival.
And that mercy is immediately met with brutal betrayal. Ned foolishly trusts Littlefinger, who promises to secure the gold cloaks. The city watch for Ned's move against the Lannisters.
Instead, Peter Baelish turns the city watch against him, led by the newly appointed Lord Janos Slynt. Ned's household guard is immediately cut down, Jory, while Heward, confirming what Varys had sadly observed to Ned earlier. When I see what honesty and honor have won you, I understand why.
Jaime Lannister, who's returned to the city, attacks Ned, shattering his leg. In the chaos, Arya is almost captured by Lannister men, including Ser Meryn, but she escapes thanks to her dancing master, Syrio Forel, who sacrifices himself to defend her.
And Arya flees into this terrifying maze of the Red Keep's dragon skull cellars, surrounded by shadows and monsters.
So as the South burns in political intrigue, the extreme North is dealing with a threat that is far colder, a threat that just dwarfs the squabbles over the Iron Throne.
Jon Snow, having absorbed Donald Noye's lesson and hearing about the fighting in the South, faces his first true horror, the reanimated corpse of Othar, one of the Lost Rangers.
The description of this encounter is so key to understanding the existential threat of the others. Jon notes the unnatural, bone-deep cold, the queer and cold smell, and the wrongness of the sound his sword made when cutting the corpse. The eyes burning like blue stars.
This isn't just a zombie, it's a wight, animated by the others. And Samwell Tarly, despite his crippling fear, provides the crucial scientific evidence. Jon forced him to look, and Sam observes that the wound where Ghost tore off the man's hand did not bleed. The wrist was crusty, dry.
Which confirms the men were dead before they were animated and moved south.
An act of purposeful magical necromancy. This is the first verifiable witnessed evidence of the other's power in centuries. The political game is completely meaningless if this threat breaks through.
And for his incredible bravery in saving Lord Commander Mormont from the White, Jon receives the highest honor. The ancestral Valyrian steel sword, Longclaw, refitted with a direwolf's head pommel.
Mormont explicitly states this gift is meant to put 1,000 leagues twixt him and you, and his status as a bastard. It finally validates Jon's search for true honor, independent of his birth status.
Meanwhile, news of Ned's arrest, the war in the Riverlands, and Edmure Tully's capture force rob Stark to rise to war. He's only 15, but he immediately steps into the role of Lord. The North needs a leader, and Robb answers.
His largest immediate obstacle is the crossing of the Trident at the Twins, controlled by the ancient, irascible, and strategically positioned Lord Walder Frey, who has closed his gates. Robb's army cannot move south without his permission.
Catelyn, traveling back from the Eyrie, recognizes the severity of the situation and knows she has to be the one to negotiate.
And the negotiation is this agonizing scene of bargaining away the future. Frey, who boasts, "I'll match you son for son, and I'll still have 18 when yours are all dead," demands a crushing price.
Catelyn succeeds. She secures the crossing and Frey's aid of 4,000 men, but only in exchange for 2 of Frey's young grandsons as wards and, most fatefully, marriage pacts for Robb and Arya. She barters her children's futures to save her husband and her family.
An act of desperation that sets the stage for so much future tragedy.
Robb's subsequent military strategy, guided by his great-uncle Sir Brynden Tully, the Blackfish, is absolutely brilliant. It demonstrates his immediate capacity for command.
He splits his host. He sends Roose Bolton south to meet Tywin Lannister with the larger, slower force, knowing this will draw Tywin's attention.
And then he takes his cavalry west in this lightning-fast maneuver, wagering on the fact that the Kingslayer, Jaime Lannister, who is besieging River Run, lacks patience.
A gamble that pays off immediately at the Battle of the Whispering Wood. Robb's surprise attack in the dark catches Jaime utterly unawares.
Catelyn watches this battle from the walls of River Run, horrified by the sound. She feels this strange mix of terror and pity for the Lannisters below, thinking, so this is what death sounds like.
And the campaign is a dramatic, successful victory. Robb captures Jaime Lannister, acquiring the single most valuable bargaining chip in the entire war, instantly elevating him to a major player.
So let's bring all this knowledge together for you, the learner. This deep dive really shows the collapse of the foundational honor system that Ned Stark believed in. His actions in King's Landing, trying to preserve order through justice, led directly to his personal destruction and the start of a bloody civil war.
And conversely, you have the cunning of men like Tyrion, who uses his intellect to manipulate his way out of the Eyrie, and Littlefinger, who uses betrayal and financial control to seize power. They survived and thrived.
And the symbolic tragedy of the Direwolves foreshadowed the political fates of the Stark children, demonstrating that the North's mystical protection is just. It's insufficient against Southern treachery.
The ultimate irony of this massive shift into war is that Catelyn's decision to capture Tyrion, based entirely on the emotional evidence of the dagger and Lysa's letter, is what mobilized Lord Tywin Lannister's army in the first place.
That pursuit of a captured son led directly to Tywin's forces being out of position, allowing Robb's masterful strategy to succeed and capture Jaime. The very engine of the war's beginning was Catelyn's disastrous miscalculation.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought, going right back to the source of Catelyn's rage, the assassin's dagger.
Littlefinger insisted to Ned that he lost the dagger to Tyrion in a bet. Tyrion vehemently denied ever owning the blade, arguing, only a fool would arm a common footpad with his own blade. Both men are masters of lies.
So what if the dagger belonged to neither of them? The sources confirm it was a beautifully crafted Valyrian steel blade, far too valuable for a common footpad. What if the true owner was not a participant in the fight, but someone who simply tossed the dagger aside after the attack, knowing its unique characteristics would immediately point suspicion at the Lannisters, thus accelerating the conflict between Stark and Lannister?
We'll leave you with the chilling thought that while Ned and Catelyn were focused on the obvious enemy, the Lannisters, the real puppeteer may still be hiding in the shadows of King's Landing, orchestrating the war that Robb has now brilliantly joined.